Thank you so much. Watching Celia having to describe gene therapy in 1 minute, the history of gene therapy, was quite something. It reminded me actually of this weekend on Sunday. I was at an event at one of our synagogues, and the guy who was running it was really intense about everything he wanted me to talk about. And I literally read the card for my staff, and it said, "Senator, you will have a handheld mic and no podium. And they have asked you to address the debt deal last week, North Korea, DACA and immigration, Israel, and everything relevant to the Mideast, period. You have 5 minutes." So see? But we are here on some other topics that weren't there, and very important topics to me. First of all, I have a daughter who, when she was born, couldn't swallow, and they literally never figured out what was wrong. She was fed through a stomach tube, first nose tube, then stomach tube for 2 years, about a year and a half, year and 3/4. And somehow when she started to eat, she then started to swallow. And they thought maybe she had muscular dystrophy, and she didn't. And we went to all these, had all these genetic workups and everything. And literally, we still really don't know what went wrong, but everything she swallowed came out her nose. She just graduated from college, Phi Beta Kappa. So it was kind of a miracle story of great doctors, and then actually making the decision to not do some surgeries that some people thought maybe we should do. But it was also an experience that was a gift. It was a gift to see parents of kids that actually had rare diseases and parents who were standing by these kids and through thick and thin, and also that feeling you have when you don't know what's wrong, or even for them when you do know what's wrong but you don't know how to fix it, is just the worst feeling for any parent. And so that's how I got interested in this. I then went on to run for the Senate, and I represent a state that is, as Garrison Keillor would say, a place where all the women are strong, all the men are good looking, and all the doctors and researchers are above average. My state, he didn't really say that last part, I made that up. And so we have the University of Minnesota Mayo Clinic, and I've been able, as I was listening to Celia, see their genome bank and the work that's being done, and actually agreed to, they were doing some study, so I'm waiting my results. I'm part of the study to see how you respond and metabolize different drugs. And they're having tens of thousands of people do this. So they're able to adjust what drugs work for you. And this is part of all this new medicine that's going on that I think is really exciting, especially for when it comes to rare diseases. And I want to thank the FDA for their work. We have worked in Congress on the favorite PDUFA to get some extra funds in there to speed up approvals, which is so important to the rare disease community. We also have some bills like the CREATES Act and other things on the generic front that a bunch of us are working on, and just doing everything that we can to bring out new cures while also at the same time keeping safety in mind, but that also part of this will be to do what we can to make things affordable. So rare diseases, Senator Hatch and I have long been involved in this and headed up the caucus on the Senate side. Some of you have probably heard me say this before, but Senator Hatch and I, we may not seem like we have a lot in common with our heights and political backgrounds and bit of an age difference, but in fact, the Washingtonian magazine once voted us the 2 senators least likely to get into a scandal. That's true, which we assume includes with each other, so that's good. So because of that, we're heading up, because of, I think his early work on this, and I've been honored to join him. We know there are 7,000 known rare diseases affecting almost 1 in 10 Americans, many of whom are children, but only 5% of rare diseases have an FDA-approved treatment. So part of this is getting these cures and treatments going, but part of it, and this was the bill I wanted to mention, is giving patients and their families a better seat at the table when the FDA is reviewing new treatments. As we like to say, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So we know that families experience a emotional roller coaster when they interact with the federal government, and it's not always the federal government's fault. They're trying to do their jobs, but there's a bunch of rules and regulations for good reasons they were put there, but it can make it hard for families. And we believe that patients and families deserve greater clarity about the process for approving the drugs and should be included and informed every step of the way. Passing the 21st Century Cures Act last year was an important milestone, and we worked really hard on that. I personally, in addition to working on the opioid funding, had a big piece of it with the eating disorders bill that had been kicking around for over a decade that I got done with Senator Shelley Capito and Senator Ayotte and Senator Baldwin. But that was one important bill, but we can't stop there. So Roger Wicker and I have introduced the Benefit Act. Today, there is no requirement that the FDA include any patient experience of patient-focused drug development data as part of its risk-benefit framework. And this means that the agency's signature tool for evaluating risks and benefits doesn't always include data from the patient perspective that we think would be critical to informing the evaluation and ultimately the decision. So what our bill does is to simply address that gap by requiring the FDA to consider this information as part of the risk-benefit assessment. And I'm happy to say that with the help of many in this room, the bill passed through the Senate this summer, and moving forward, we know we have a lot of work to do, including getting the Benefit Act through the House and signed into law, because we need to ensure that treatments for those with rare conditions are informed by that patient and family experience. And we know it takes time, and people try to be patient, but it's so hard, of course, when you have someone with a rare disease. And so part of this is realizing that situation and getting that information from the families and the patients. So that's our bill. It's through the Senate. We'd like to get it through the House and signed into law. And so mostly I just want to thank you for participating today. It is not the easiest time in our government. It's a volatile time for me. There have been some major changes, including that I was replaced as the most famous Slovenian American in Washington by Melania Trump. That's true. It's true. She was actually born an hour away from where my relatives are from in Slovenia. And as I said at the National Prayer Breakfast, every time I look at her, it's like looking in the mirror. So I have overcome that moment, and I just see this as taxing as I've found this time to be. It's not just a moment to overcome in our politics, it's also a moment to shine and to find those moments and spaces of common ground that we can, and to seize on those. And this is certainly one of them. So I want to thank you for participating, and thank you to the amazing people up here who are actually on the front line doing the work. Jordan is here from my office, and so if you have any follow-ups with us on the bill or anything, you want to give out your number, Jordan? You know, like a 1-800 number? No, give it out, your work number, yeah. Too fast. 202-224. 3029. So if you have any follow-up with us or with me, give Jordan a call and he will track me down. So thank you, everyone, very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator Klobuchar.